Rovers are gearing up for this weekend's action as they take on Watford down at Vicarage Road. I got two fans from Watford standing by to talk all things Hornets, and they're coming at you. That's right, folks, back once again in another Rovers Rivals video. Today, we're gearing up for Watford, of course, taking on Blackburn Rovers down at Vicarage Road, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. If you're new, where you been, smash your subscribe button, back to all things Rovers related, championship related, world football related. We're going to all here, boys, under one rooski, of course. Two fans standing by to talk all things Watford, as, of course, the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast crew are ready to answer all my grilling questions about this coming Sunday's match. We'll get to them in a second. Of course, big shout out to my VIPs. They are the patrons, of course. You know who you are. But anyway, let's get into it and meet our guests. Today, we're talking about the big game, of course, on Sunday. Everyone's eyes will be on it because it's the only game in town. It is Watford, it is Rovers, and I'm joined by two lovely gentlemen here from the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes Out podcast. Or something along those lines, and they're joining me. And we're here to talk about
straight away. You asked this.
I know. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at this. So, Pete, Justin, for my small corner of the YouTube universe, tell them a little bit about yourself and how you managed to fall in love with the Hornets.
Oh, good. Oh, blimey. Right. Okay. So I fell in love with the Hornets probably from the 1984 Cup final, I guess. And then I started going the following year in 1985. So that's nearly 40 years. A few periods where I've not gone because I've been working or whatever. But yeah, I go to all the home games. I don't go away very often. But yeah, it's in the blood. I was born in Watford General next door. So that's kind of my story.
1977, got taken along with a friend's birthday party. I think I was about 8 at the time. And I just loved walking into the stadium. And, you know, when you walk through, first of all, and you see that kind of splash of green and everything. And it also didn't hurt that it was the start of the Graham Taylor glory years, which made it quite simple to jump on board. So that was really me hooked like we all are at a young age.
Yeah, well, it's a great place for me. Of course, spent a lot of my professional time in that neck of the woods. But again, to this coming weekend, my heart will be with the blue and white halves or whatever shirt we wear this coming Sunday against your lot, which have had an okay start to the season. Nothing like I'm a big fan of Valérien Ismaël, especially in his Barnsley days, and I thought he had a rough end of the stick at West Brom. But I think I'm hopefully as just as optimistic as you guys are, or maybe not. But I think you might have a good coach if everybody buys into the project to get you guys back where you belong.
Yeah, I mean, I think our question marks, if you will, aren't really around Valérien Ismaël, which is probably unsurprising, really, bearing in mind we've had about 20 managers in, I don't know, 15 weeks or whatever it is. I mean, yeah, we just go through them like a dose of salts. We're fairly convinced he's brought more organisation, more effort than we had seen for a long time. Saturday, it dropped off away from home, so it'd be interesting to see whether or not we see the Vicarage Road performances, which have been encouraging and very on the front foot, or whether or not we see a continuation of the Stoke game that looked very much more tentative. There was far less passing cohesion, and therefore it was kind of we just never really got going. The question mark is basically around, like everybody in the division and in football at the moment, we desperately need a number 9. We need somebody to put the ball in the back of the net, because from a league standpoint, we went 4-0 up against QPR, and do look forward to QPR coming because they're a bundle of fun. In the first half, we were 4-0 up. And since then, in the next, 3.5 games of league football, we haven't scored. So it's been a little bit, a bit of an issue with that.
It's been what it is. It's been 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. And you can't really tell a lot from that. With regards to Ismaël, yes, I'd like to see him succeed. I'd like any Watford manager to succeed, because we seem to hire and fire far too quickly, and just as you get used to one, they're fired and somebody else comes in. So to have a season with one manager would be a luxury. So let's see how we go. I'd like him to do well. Unfortunately, I don't think he's been given the tools necessarily, with the window closing in what we now 9 days or something. Is it, Peter? 9 days?
Yeah, it's about 9 days.
Yeah, we haven't got the players at the moment, so a lot needs to come in the next 9 days if he's going to do his job properly.
Well, you actually beautifully segued into my second question. Of course, transfer-wise, I've seen a lot of your big names leave. Sar's gone, Pedro as well from last or back in the last season, confirmed has moved to Brighton. So a bit of money coming in. I know you brought in that Reece Healy fella from Toulouse, a player that we were linked with a little bit. Yet to really get going off the blocks. I don't know if he's playing. I haven't really done a deep dive, to be honest with you. But are you expecting some names, new guys, reinforcements before the window shuts?
The only appearance that Reece Healy has made is in a 1-1 draw in the League Cup away at Stevenage, which we then lost on penalties. He came on for about 15 minutes. He then proceeded to miss a penalty. And other than that, he really hasn't been given a sniff. And bearing in mind what we're saying about, well, we need a striker, he's coming back from an ACL, as you say there, and he's kind of, whether or not they're kind of... From what we've heard, Valerian wants to get him up to a certain level of fitness. I mentioned we're on the front foot. We run forever in comparison to how we have done previously. And I think he's very mindful about not making Reece Healy kind of run beyond his level of fitness at the moment with an ACL breakdown potentially. In terms of what we want, absolutely, it's that forward is the most important. But there's a number of different places that we need strengthening. We were quite bloated last year in terms of having quite a big squad. 20-odd players have gone out and 5 have come in. So we have gone, kind of fairly too far the other way. And we need some, if we're going to play with that kind of stripped back squad, we need a player the likes of Callum Styles, who's at Barnsley currently. He was on loan at Millwall last year, who can be a bit of a utility kind of plug and play him in a number of different positions. We haven't got anything like that. We're 3 games in, and suddenly we've got no fit left backs. We've got 1 remaining right back. Our defensive midfield player is Jake Livermore, who cannot last for. Well, that certainly can't last an hour. And we were missing the player who was playing in there, who was a kind of a repurposed centre back in Francisco Sierralta. So we are really quite minimal in terms of the numbers. The players we have brought in have been people like Livermore, who had his first start on Saturday. People will look at him for the goal that we conceded. You've also got people like Tom Ince, who again came on and looked like what he is, which is a player who hadn't really played for the last 12 games of last season. So he needs to kind of get up and running. So what if we do go in those next 9 days and get somebody, it has to be somebody who is ready to come in and play a part straight away. There is no point bringing in any more crocs or fitness issues, etc. So, we're being linked with forwards here, there, and everywhere from all places, and we'll just see what comes in.
Not really much to add to that, other than last season we did have quite a large squad, and we had hamstring injuries galore and other injuries. If that happens again this season, we're in big trouble.
It's like reading.
It was like somebody had a hamstring gun and was aiming it at every single one of our midfielders. We then went and got another midfielder, and he got a hamstring. So there you go.
Well, it's like just as like it must be telepathic. It's like you got my notes here. But what are your hopes for the season? Of course, from an outside looking in, keeping a hold of the coach would be great. I have earmarked you guys for a playoff run, and if everything does cook well, then I do anticipate that to happen. But do you have bigger ambitions, or are you more pessimistic moving forward?
Your ambitions are higher than mine if you're going for playoffs, because I don't honestly think that's going to happen. When you look at who's come down, when you look at who's come up, and you look at how those teams are doing straight away, I think we're probably looking at an outside playoff finish, and I think that's probably where the board have set their sights. If that's what they've done in terms of transfers, I don't think they're building a squad for promotion from what they've done during the transfer window so far. So I think outside the playoffs, probably mid-table. And listen, as long as the football's better, the football has been terrible for 2 seasons. It's been awful to watch. You're sitting there talking to your mates rather than watching what's going on the pitch. How you doing? You're right. Are your kids all right? Because you just can't bear what's going on the pitch. So as long as my focus is again back on the grass, I'll take that.
That's fair enough. Not dissimilar, but a little bit. I'm a little bit more glass full rather than Justin, who's making that glass empty, which is his way. It's for me. I've said all along, what I want us to be is more than the sum of our parts. I want the manager to make us a coherent team, because through all of the sackings and everything, and of course, Watford's become a byword and a snigger word for, kind of like, oh, really? They fired another one, have they? We just want to be able to see something being built rather than something being plastered together and then systematically kind of taken apart 10 weeks later. So if we see that, and if we see the kind of effort that we saw in the two first home games, and a little bit of coherence, then I will be happy regardless of our positioning. We should be free of the relegation if he does that, of the threat. But you have to look at it, and I've been doing some numbers today. We have spent other than the teams who spent absolutely nothing, we spent easily the least, basically £50,000 to buy Tom Ince, and that was it. And we have sold 50 million of players. So we know the club are trying to recruit this number 9. It would be considered one of the missing parts of the jigsaw, but we also need to stack out those other positions and have people who can step into them in order to be able to push us into those kind of upper mid-table and aim for the aim for a playoff spot.
Okay, of course. When you highlighted a lot of concerns, injuries, left back, the lack of left back. Who do you guys think? Again, it could be the same starting 11, but or a different starting 11. But who do you expect to start this weekend for Watford against Rovers?
This is more your territory, Peter. I'll start with Backman in goal. Because I think that's.
Thanks for that.
I suspect Porteous and Hoot at the back, and now the rest of it's over to you.
At right back, you'll have Ryan Andrews, who is he only came into the team at the end of last season, again because Jeremy Ngakia, the other right back who started the season, is out injured. But Ryan Andrews is a good young prospect, son of a former player of ours, Wayne Andrews. So he comes from good stock. At left side, because Jamal Lewis, who we excitedly signed from Newcastle, is crocked. Hasn't even played for the team yet. So obviously we don't quite know exactly how that is. But James Morris came down with supposedly an injury or cramp, depending on which one you agree, with last week. I imagine we might see Ken Sema move from his right wing position, where we play these inverted wingers, probably to left back. In the midfield, because Sierralta is out, I imagine probably either Jake Livermore or Edo Kayembe, who came on for Livermore and was slightly less frightening than everybody thought he might be. He's a very left-sided player, but he can play in midfield. He doesn't give you the height. He doesn't give you the dropping into centre-back position that Sierralta has done for us quite miraculously. We play two midfielders in front of him. One of those will undoubtedly be Imran Louza, who we signed from Nantes 2 seasons ago. Left-footed, very versatile, can play an insightful pass, and can on occasions put in a decent dead ball, but you'd be hard pressed to have known that last season. The other players in the mix for the other right wing back are many. Tom Dele-Bashiru started the season really well, but seems to have fallen off. There's a guy called Ishmael Kone, who's a Canadian international, who kind of comes on and is busy, but never quite convinces. And the one I think we all probably would like to see in that position, who should have been given a penalty on Saturday, is a guy called Georgi Chakfadadze. And that's why we call him Dave, because he's come on and he's a bundle of fun from Georgia. Great technical player, got a good range of passing, can go past a player, keeps his head up, which is good. On the left, we've had Matthias Martins, who is one of our. We brought in Richarlison and now Pedro, that people will know. The next one on the line out from Fluminense in Brazil was Matthias Martins. Came to us last season, didn't look particularly great, didn't really get many chances, but he started the season well. But again, last week failed to really deliver anything. On the right side, because Sema's will be moved back, I would imagine that we might see somebody like Tom Ince, but more than likely young Yasser Asprilla, who's a young Colombian who's a bundle of fun. He last year we all looked at him and thought he's great, but has he got the physicality for the Championship? There were Brighton and Man City even were kind of linked with having keen interest in this kid. He's like a Poundland Phil Foden, if you like. when he did get to play in against Plymouth in our second game, he lit the place up. So I imagine he'll probably get a start because he's fit. Up front, we will undoubtedly start with Vakun Issouf Bio, who was a player we bought in from Belgium for a lot more money than he cost the day before we signed him. And then he was so good that we shipped him back off to the club again. But since he's come in this season, he has put in a decent shift and a decent effort. But he's having to play with his back to goal in terms of build-up play, and that's not really his game. He prefers the ball being put in front of him, which is why we need that big striker, which is what we always come back to. So that's the team, I'd say.
Is the young Aspria guy any relation to the Geordie?
No, despite suggestions in social media that he was his dad, who also had a drug problem and this and that and that. Well, we all know Faustino Aspria had any, kind of open brackets, kind of close brackets problem with absolutely everything, but no relation, I don't believe.
Okay, and this is it. This is the final piece of the pie. Your hopes and dreams for the maybe hopes and dreams for Sunday. A score prediction, if I can get one from.
Hopes and dreams for Sunday. Oh, blimey. Well, I hope and dream to see a team that looks like they care and they look like they want to put in a shift. That would be nice. I think previously my prediction has been 1-0 to Blackburn. I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to call. We're so inconsistent. It's really difficult to call. Having spoken to another Blackburn podcast that don't seem to think that you guys can score, I think there's going to be a bit of an accident at the back. Backman's going to try and play out from the back, get caught out. You're going to score. It's going to be 1-0 to Blackburn.
That was very specific. Well done. Lots of detail in there. Oh,
yeah,
very impressed. Very impressed. I'm what my hopes, wishes, and aspirations. The first thing I wish it was that we weren't playing at 12 o'clock on Sunday because our women's team, who had a glorious season last year, got promotion, are also kicking off about 8 miles away at 12 o'clock on Sunday, and it's being shown on FA Player. So they're not moving. So they're kicking off both the men and the ladies at the same time, which is just stupid. It would have been nice to have been able to go to that personally, but there we go. In terms of the game, I'm going to hope that we are looking at at Vicarage Road as a fortress, and the fans kind of putting that extra bit of impetus into the players and looking for a reaction from Stoke. I'm going to go 2-1 Watford.
Nice. Well. I guess just for out of courtesy, I will let you know. I'll go for the other one, the draw on this one. I do anticipate Watford are going to be. Yeah. Well, I think we can score. I think Rovers can score. It's just a mystery who it will be. And again, we're also in that market looking for a striker, which I guess it seems like a rocking horse poop right now, and everyone's after them, but no one can get them. But appreciate you guys for giving up a bit of your time, and I do hope you have a great season after Sunday, and then hopefully we can we'll return the favor when you guys come back to Ewood Park. Well, thanks again for the guys showing up today for this quick chat about Rovers' visit to Vicarage Road. Of course, we'll look forward to kick-off, and hopefully we'll get to do this conversation again as we build up towards Christmas. That's right, as Rovers will host Watford on the 23rd of December. So we look forward to that, and of course look forward to catching up with them, and we'll see how we get on this coming weekend. And that, my friends, is all we've got. Until then, though, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Check out the podcast, the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast from the guys from Watford, and of course, make sure you come back again for coverage for the rest of the match. But until then, subscribe, thumbs up, and of course, catch you later on the flip. But until then, we're done.